Hello there, I'm Connie.
Hello, I'm Dobbs.
Welcome to The Worry Book, a podcast for anyone who has ever worried about anything ever. In each episode, we'll be exploring a subject that we worry about while trying not to make matters worse or falling out with each other. So this week, we're worrying about money.
Money!
Money, money, money.
Money, 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 and the lack of money and too much money.
Well, yeah, I think I'm going to find this one a bit challenging because I don't really like talking about money.
No, I don't mind talking about it, but dealing with it is a whole different kettle of fish. Because I'm pretty poor with money.
I think just putting it out there straight away, I feel like, I'm in basically a pretty privileged position in the sense that, I've got a job and, I'm earning a decent amount. And so therefore, what the hell have I got to worry about in relation to money? But I think it's still worth talking about because I do worry about it in the sense that I worry about sort of, is this situation always going to be the same? How much should I be saving? And also I look back and worry about the fact that I think I was very poor with money in the past, although, perhaps not in the traditional sense of, spending compulsively on unnecessary items. But, I do look back and think, if it wasn't for all those nights out and being so overly generous with my friends, then maybe I might have bought a house by now. And in that statement, I make no exaggeration. I was extremely generous.
Give me an example of this generosity when you spent ridiculous amounts of money.
I think it hides a multitude of issues in relation to my generosity. But I can remember, for example, going out and having, a fun night involving the purchase of numerous initially glasses, subsequently bottles of wine, and enjoying them with my friends, and then probably, getting to the point where we should call it a night, and then me saying, no, hang on, there's always time for a bottle of champagne, and then for no particular reason, just, ordering a bottle of 80 quid champagne, and, and saying, let's stay on, let's try and, ensure that this night never ends, or when it does, tomorrow.
So you've got insecurities of your friendships, you've got alcoholism, you've got maybe not wanting to just literally go home and stay in that little bubble of security that you've formed for yourself, and you'll spend every penny you have to
try and compensate,
to try and stay within that bubble and not have to deal with anything outside there.
We've gone deep already. Yeah. But what I'm
sounds familiar. That's all.
What I'm trying to basically now quite rapidly cover up is the fact that yes, all of those things I think were very much in the front of my consciousness.
I relate to that, but I'm way too tight to spend £80 on a bottle of champagne.
And that's not to say that I could afford that 80 quid. I had a credit card and I wasn't afraid to use it. And so, but yeah, you're right. I think there was all this stuff going on and there was a certain expectation at the time, to do with the job that I was doing and the people that I was hanging out with, that, that's kind of what you did, that you sort of, even if you didn't have it, you flashed the cash a bit. And, it was just, there were many, many occasions like that where, I certainly wasn't the only one doing it. But, I think if I just kind of maybe thought twice about where my money was going.
Sounds like you fell into the trap of twatdom.
Absolutely. Oh, it's got a big door.
Oh, the twat door.
And the run up to it is very greasy. And occasionally vomit stained.
Oh dear. It's easy done though. It's easy done. I've never been privileged enough to have much money, but once I've had a few beers, then any money I have has been quite happily spent over a bar or an off license or whatever. No regrets. Well, I don't know. There is regrets for various reasons, but you kind of move on and you do it, and I had some great nights. So what the hell?
That's true, and I will try and look back on those times as, part of my formative or, informative years. They informed what I'm subsequently doing.
Yeah, and I, I come from, my whole upbringing, family, sort of, we've never had any money in the family, at all, including properties. None of my parents, they have owned houses in the past, but now they're sort of renting, and things like that. And, I think my mum goes, "Oh yeah, I've got a pension enough to pay for my funeral." She reminds me now and again, so that's good.
Thumbs up, mum.
But me at the age of 44 don't have a mortgage, don't have any property, don't have any savings, don't have a pension. Oh well, I have a kind of work pension, but so really, I'm a hell of a catch.
But does that?
No car?
But does that mean that you don't worry about money then, because it's kind of, those things which tie you to money at the moment, for whatever reason, whether it's how you choose to be, if you could do it over again, but does that mean that you're less concerned?
Well, I think I do worry about money, and I did have a few years ago quite a bit of a debt that I built up just by getting credit cards and things like that. Maxing out, getting a loan to pay that off, so paying it off, but in the meantime, building up the credit card again, and they ended up sort of defaulting things. I mean, that's all past now, and that's all sort of sorted, and that's paid off and whatever. But I think going through at that time, I was extremely depressed. I was stuck in a horrible little hole. Rang very sort of like National Debt Helpline, stuff like that, who were fantastic and helped me out. And now I kind of think, well, one, I'm a bit better. I don't have credit cards, things like that. Even though I'm eligible, I'll do buy something on, credit now and again, but I'll make sure it's well within my, I can afford it and things like that. So, I can't remember what my point was. So yeah, but I think going through that sort of thing, I think now my sort of money worries, I kind of think, well, as long as I can pay rent and have some food and and generally have a sort of social life and things like that, then it kind of put things into perspective a lot. So I do worry about money, but nowhere near as much. It's more like short term. It's more like, oh God, I don't get paid for 2 weeks or whatever. Or how many cans of soup am I going to buy to have in my work locker, so I know at least I'll have something to eat during the day. Which sounds a bit sad, but then I'll go out and spend that money on booze. So yeah,
you see,
I should worry more. Is what I'm probably what people would say.
Would you want to? I mean, I think I worry less now because I've become very averse to debt, having been in quite substantial debt in the past, as referenced
nice little grunt
just
there.
now. Thank you. That was my debt grunt. That was my debt grunt.
Oh, don't know what that was.
Yours was a bit more like
test my cornflakes and
that was a bit more like a debt.
That was a debt.
That was a debt chunder.
That was aimed at all the people that sell people loans and stuff.
Well, you see,
when they shouldn't.
This was how I got into. So as well as my, let's call it, over generosity / lack of self-esteem, I also separately was offered a loan at a time when I really shouldn't have been offered a loan, and got myself, and a massive.
That was called the 90s, wasn't it?
No, this was like mid 2010s.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay.
And I was offered. No, it wasn't. It was the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And I was offered a loan for an amount which, at the time seemed like, oh my God, this would make life so much easier. I didn't have a stable job. I branched out on my own. I was, I was trying to sort of like, be a bit entrepreneurial. And I basically, was offered this loan. And, on the face of it, I thought, yeah, if everything goes brilliantly, this won't be a problem. You know, it will just kind of tide me over, mean, you know, that I don't have to worry about money in the short term. But longer term, you know, when you realise month to month that actually things aren't quite going to plan, and this loan is still looming over your head, and it's not going anywhere, and you've signed up to it and you're committed, you know, that was terrifying. And in the end, you know, there had to be some kind of consolidation and some, you know, really dramatic realisation that I was going to have to address this, and it was going to have quite serious sort of repercussions in terms of like my ability to, you know, get credit in the future. I mean, basically, you know, the outcome was that I shot my credit rating to pieces, and it's taken me like a substantial number of years to kind of build it back up again. And, you know, I think now I'm overly conscious of spending beyond my means. And, you know, it really does worry me when I get to a point where I'm anywhere near my overdraft. And before, you know, when I was a student, overdraft, free money, you know, overdraft is that bit where, you know, you're probably into your overdraft before, you know, before, you know, that is basically your money.
Yeah, I've had that. I've had that. Like you get paid that first week, you go out and blow it all, and then you're kind of either near your overdraft or in it, and then you've got like 3 weeks.
And it's kind of there was no stigma to that, or either that, or it just wasn't talked about, or it was kind of funny. It was like, oh yeah, I've got no money. Oh, you know, I've spent up my overdraft, or, you know. And I remember as well, first day of uni, you know, along with the forms to say this is where you're going to be living and this is your new doctors, you know, getting a form from a credit card company saying, you know, and here's your credit card, here's £3,000, you know, go out and get wasted, you know. And that's
what he said. That's what you read.
That was it was in the small print.
Yeah, in pencil in your handwriting.
You know, that is pretty much how everyone read it. You know, so now I think having been through that experience, and yeah, getting pretty kind of like, that's my scaredy noise. Getting about money.
Yeah.
I'm now kind of like overly conscious of. I've basically become really tight. I think that's the thing.
I've noticed, yeah.
So, you know, whereas before, I mean, obviously, you know, caveat and everything with we're in lockdown at the moment, so we're not really doing a lot, and it's been a lot easier to save and a lot easier to kind of maybe think more long term about money and sort of what it might enable in the future. But I think, you know, there's no way I'm ever going to buy anyone around ever again unless I'm absolutely reassured that they're going to be able to buy one for me. No, well, that's not true. But it's kind of I'm gonna be much more. I'm just gonna have a bit more kind of about me. I think it's going to be that thing of, yeah, money's there to be used rather than, you know, money's there to sort of have a hold on you if you don't use it.
Yeah.
If you don't
so
use it.
I'm going to go back because I'm riled now. You've riled me about this round thing.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. That was the one thing that,
the trick is you do buy a round.
Having spilled my guts about my debt issues, the thing that's really got you emotionally, your emotions heightened is that I've said etiquette I'm not buying a round.
Essential.
Right. Okay.
Right. If somebody buys you a round, then you buy it back. You don't have to. It's an unwritten rule.
Same night?
Yes, generally speaking. Right. You know, which again helps the continuation of the night. But and you stay by that person's side. If you bought them, you stay by their side until they have to almost buy you off.
Wow! So you're like some kind of
no, but
you're like a sort of pint shadow.
Pint shadow, I like that. Yeah, I'm going to pint shadow you bastard. Yeah, but it is. It's very. I think that the whole etiquette of you know, I don't buy someone a pint to get one back. That's not what I do. Even though it sounds like I do.
But that's exactly what you do.
In all seriousness, that's not what I do. But in the pub round environment, that is just an unwritten rule. If somebody buys me a pint, I'll say, oh, thank you. Or I'll say, oh, no, it's all right. I'll get my own, you know, if I'm not hanging around or whatever, or I don't like them or whatever. So, but
I was going to say,
that's not true because I probably at some point will say I don't want, and they'll be like, oh, right, I see.
But what if you get bought a pint by someone you don't really know, or even worse,
that's
don't
fine. You can
really
still buy them
like.
a pint back.
Okay.
I don't.
Oh yeah, I guess that's
I
just
don't
manners,
dislike
isn't
a lot
it?
of people. If it's someone I really don't dislike, very unlikely I'll be drinking with them. And I can't think of one person offhand that I do not like.
That you wouldn't.
That
you wouldn't take a
actively
pint
dislike.
off.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But there's there can
because
be.
I'm nice.
And
nice, but buy that bloody pint back.
I've just become really tight.
Yeah.
But no,
No,
who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
I don't know, because we don't know. Because like you said, we're in lockdown. So when we get back to socialising...
My over-generous
who knows?
gene might suddenly be unleashed again. And I might start just, spending all the money that I saved.
Because also, as well, at this point, I'll say you haven't drank really for, what, 4 or 5 months?
Nearly 6, yeah.
Nearly 6
Since
months.
August.
And I've had a few drinks, but generally haven't really drunk for about 3-4 months. But I've had a few, but nothing. So that whole social environment, which doesn't mean you have to drink. Obviously, there's non-alcoholic drinks or there's soft drinks or there's just sort of not pubs.
True.
But I like pubs. So
oh no, the pub is will be a welcome addition to the social roster when we can go out again.
So basically, we're talking about money, and our barometer of money and spending is revolving around
alcohol and pubs.
Yeah.
So
well, that's probably what got us into
trouble.
Well,
the root of all our money issues is booze.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But now that we've curtailed that, then to a degree, then I don't think my attitude is going to change dramatically again. I do. I was thinking about this. I do think that I don't really know where I sort of got to know what to do with money. I think because of that whole sort of like getting given money at an age in your sort of very early 20s, where you perhaps, your focus is on, socialising and sort of definitely not on your future. I think I perhaps carried that attitude with me slightly longer than other people. There were people in my situation, who were putting down deposits on houses in London when I was looking at them and thinking, you what? And, now they're going to be giving up work in a year because they've paid off their mortgage,
right.
And they're going to be going out and being incredibly generous down the pub. And there's me, with my cup of soup. So, it's sort of slightly difficult to look back on that positively. But I would say, I've got there in the end, and I think I've got good habits now. I think, I'm sort of able to look at money and say, that's my priority, and I can sort of portion things off more.
No, I think that's very good, and I think
more efficiently.
We all go on our journey.
We do.
and the thing is learning stuff as you go along and picking things up and trying not to make the same mistakes. Or, or mistakes, maybe even too strong for some of them, but, errors of judgment.
I've mentioned this to you before. I do think it would be good if schools, now I can get all kind of like on my high horse about it. I do think it would be good if schools perhaps prioritised money and educating young people about money a bit more than they do, because the only education I got really was when a bank set up under the stairs next to the library in my school.
A bank set up in your school?
Yeah, they just kind of...
That's a bit weird.
A few of them walked in one day just sort of set up a little desk. I mean, it looked great.
A few of them just walked in and said, we'll look after your money. You
little pot plant. Little pot plant. This was
must have been genuine.
Very early 90s, and they set up, and you could basically go, into this alcove on your way to the library. It was brilliantly positioned because the school was kind of encouraging you to go into the library, but by the same token, they were also encouraging you to walk past the bank.
Was this like college, or was this a
secondary school?
Secondary school.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I think you could basically open an account with this bank. So, they've got a captive audience. They didn't create a high street. They didn't say, would you like to go to one of these 3 different banks, or perhaps a building society, or better still, here's a bed. Would you perhaps like to just shove all your money under the bed? It's your choice. They're basically saying, this is a brand of bank. and
you need to
perhaps
shop with them.
might-
You don't need to ask your parents'
Perhaps
consent.
you might like
This is
to.
just-
I think you might have had to get parental consent.
I would have thought you would do if you were
I
below
think
16.
that would be
but,
illegal if they were basically signing up children
Yeah.
to
Basically,
give them money.
grooming children's cash flow.
Yeah.
If that's such a thing. Even though children wouldn't have cash. Oh, here's my pocket money. I'll pay my pocket money.
You know, a few quid, or set them up with an account. But you know, either way, you've got a customer, haven't you? And some people, and I'm guilty of this now. I'm not one of those switchers. You know, I've got into the habit of, oh well, I'm with my bank. Why would I want to switch to another bank?
Yeah.
So you know, if you end up as an 11-year-old.
Yeah, well, I've had my banks probably
getting
since
caught
I was a
in
kid.
the alcove.
I've been
getting
with the same.
caught in the alcove.
Yeah.
Or there was that other one that had those pig money
was that not
boxes.
TSB, I think.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but you know that was very much marketed
Yeah.
at kids. So I think it's tricky to sort of, you know, if that's the only education you're getting.
Well, it's not really an education. That's just coming into marketing, isn't it? That's just entrapment, pretty much.
It's
by the
entrapment.
sense of it, to be honest.
When education is entrapment, you've
But
got
I
a problem.
I think you're absolutely onto something as far as like an education on banking and money and finances, because I'd never heard of what like an ISA was and stuff like that.
I didn't know what a
and
mortgage
I think coming out
was.
of school,
I don't
yeah,
think.
well,
Or certainly not how you. I probably knew the word, but I probably
Yeah.
didn't know like what it involved.
no, well, it'd be good even if you're not putting these things into practice at that point. I think further down the line, if it's not coming into something that's completely alien to you, then it's got to be beneficial. It's got to be beneficial for the economy, the individual,
Yeah.
and I had a cough
Dear
there.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
See
is
what
just
happens when I talk about money. I
This
get all
is just
coffee.
another.
That was COVID cough.
Oh, I do hope not.
No.
This is just another.
I'm
wondrous,
showing no symptoms.
It's a wondrous
My throat's a bit dry.
outcome of no editing that you get. You get the beautiful cough in your ear. It's almost like you know, for our listeners, you were there with them, coughing really close to them at a time when people are really
It's true. I don't
averse
think,
to that kind of thing.
You know, it's not a bad microphone, but I don't think it's quite that.
Well, let's hope
Take
not.
you into your room.
Please don't let that put you off.
I'll try not to cough again.
But like you
but
said,
I'm surprised. On a different note, I'm surprised
Yeah.
because we do have one of those surface thermometer things that you point
Oh,
at
I
your
love it.
forehead,
Yeah.
and usually every time there's a slight hint of a cough, you reach for that holster. You're like like a cowboy.
I'm like the Milky Bar kid
and it's like, you know, so
of temperature checking.
and it's actually probably within reach from where I am now.
Yeah.
So we could do a live test. It wouldn't be very interesting though. And this
I
isn't
also
live.
don't think it's particularly linked to money, but
No.
Although I would say it was very reasonably priced for what it is.
It was. That's eBay for you.
I think it was £7
I got it second hand,
For,
covered in COVID.
for basically a gun that tells you your temperature.
yeah, it's good.
It's amazing.
And your face goes, "Oh, you know, I'm really worried, and then you do that, and then you go, oh,
Yeah,
that's all right.
That's all right. As long as we believe the
But then again, it could be
thermometer gun.
asymptomatic, so who knows?
who knows. But yeah, one day, you know, we might be able to buy some kind of, you know, better surface temperature gauge.
Yeah, we could upgrade.
We could upgrade. Although I'm happy with what we've got at the moment. So yeah, I would say bit more education at a young age. That wouldn't be a bad thing. What's your number one financial concern right now? Is it? Hang on, let me guess. Is it whether or not you'll be able to buy another amp?
Another guitar amp. That's always on the cards. Well, you know, I've only got like about 4 amps. 4 amps. Maybe
That doesn't sound a lot, but they are very
no,
big.
and I've got 12 guitars, so there's obviously a shortcoming now.
Do you
isn't
need one for each, ideally?
there? I'd like one for each, but no.
I think at that point we might have to open a museum.
A museum of mid-range amps. Sounds exciting.
I would
no,
actually go to that.
Would you?
Yeah.
I definitely would. I definitely
And
would go to the gift shop.
Definitely, because then you could buy a little mini one on a keyring.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that shit.
No, I think financially, I don't know. I've kind of, because I've been lucky. Well, I work in an industry, like I work in the high street, so that's been shut down for a while now since we're in lockdown, and I've been furloughed off and on, and I'm grateful and feel lucky that I'm still employed. You know, whereas a lot of people have lost their jobs through that, and fingers crossed, I'll come out the other side and still be employed. and things will get better. But because I've not been spending things, then generally I've actually been okay. I've been better off than I would have been normally when I am going into my overdraft and I am spending and going to the pub or going whatever, going out for a meal or going to the cinema and all this kind of stuff. So I've kind of enjoyed it. There's been a degree less stress by that because I haven't really thought about money as much. So, and it's more been, shall I buy that? Or, can I buy that? Will it be all right? It's not like, can I afford that? So it has made me think, and when hopefully things, touch wood and everything, things start getting better, then I think that is a lesson I will take and hopefully apply to be a little bit more, because it does. It makes me feel better. There's less stress. The amount of I've always said like these companies that do lend money to people or throw money at people, literally, they're selling that money to gain more money back, and that can lead to sort of, it's going a bit dark now, but to all kinds of depression and really, 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 dark thoughts, and I'm sure it's cost people's lives with money troubles. So, well, we know it has. So, I think on a personal level, getting control of those funds and forging a life ahead is
looking forward.
I often say this, and having money is something that makes you not have to think about money as much, which, or at least in a sort of worrisome way. So even though that's what this whole podcast is about, So I can't remember the initial question, and I rambled on a bit, but yeah.
No, that is always the way, and that's what we actively encourage. And we just keep our fingers crossed that that's what our listeners like too, because that's all they get.
That's all they get. Waffle.
All they're gonna get. So yeah, I was just gonna kind of round things off really by letting people into a kind of slightly woeful memory of money, which is when I was in, let's just say, kind of a pretty dire situation. And I ended up taking out a Wonga loan while sat on a toilet having a piss so that I could go and get a drink. And
there's something rock and roll about that, but it shouldn't be.
I just, I was, it was so easy to get. It was, I'd used it before. It was a relatively small amount. I was always able to pay it off. It was kind of, it was that sort of like, I don't really need to spend this money, but at the time it kind of seemed quite necessary and urgent, and I obviously equated that with needing a piss because I was with a friend and we were at some kind of event, and I needed to kind of spend some money on my card, and I looked and I saw that I didn't have any money, so I was like, right, I'm just going to go off and go to the loo. And whilst I was on the loo, I was able to get money into my account instantly through, I don't even think it was an app, I think it was through a website, but they immediately put that money in my account. So within the, let's say, average 3.5 minutes that it took me to have, a relatively decent piss, I was able to get enough money. Oh,
you did actually have a piss then?
Yeah. I was literally doing this. I was literally doing the two things simultaneously. I was, I'm female. I can do
Brilliant.
that. I can
Fantastic.
piss
Sexist as well.
and get a download. Thank you. I can, I was getting a download into my account.
Can't think of a word.
Whilst I was downloading. And
that's brilliant.
Yeah, but isn't that just something which shouldn't be allowed to happen?
It's a bit
Not
scary.
only my behaviour and the way that I was kind of, at that point not particularly financially savvy, but also the ease with which I was able to say, don't worry, I'll be with you in 5.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to come back relieved and also relieved.
Yes, relieved. Oh, very good. I like that. I like what you did there.
Yeah, so I'm glad that that's not able to happen anymore, because I think there's a lot more stringent kind of practices in place that mean that getting access to money in that way is no longer possible. But I think there's always like sneaky little back doors and sneaky little companies that are out there sort of trying to rebrand things and say, actually, if you are desperate, here's where you can get hold of some cash. And, it takes us back to a place where, it takes us back to that place where we're very dependent on other people. And I think that's what we should avoid, whilst always keeping the door locked on our finances, and
Yes.
when we're doing that,
Count
on
the
a
pennies
toilet
and the pounds will look after themselves.
is
Or whatever currency you're
often
working in.
used phrase nowadays, I would imagine.
Look after the bit pennies and the bit
pennies.
pounds will look after
We
themselves.
haven't even touched on Bitcoin. Oh,
I don't
I'm
even
going to
know
go.
what that is.
I'm going to
So
go away.
That's not one for now.
I'm going to go away and worry about Bitcoin now and whether I should have some.
Okay, I'm going to have a Bitcoin.
Have a
I don't even
Bitcoin.
know what that is. Didn't teach me that at school.
Go and spend
So,
a Bitcoin.
Okay, have a shit. Is that
Possibly.
Yeah, I might do actually.
All right.
I
Well,
can
good
feel
for
some
you.
rumbling.
Let's leave it
Right.
there, shall we?
Okay. On that note, let's go. Let's all go. Let's all go crazy.
Let's
right.
go.
All right. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye. Find The Worry Book on Twitter and Instagram, and if you like what you're hearing, don't forget to subscribe. We're also supporting Mind, the mental health charity. If you'd like to make a donation, visit mind.org.uk. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.